Hello everybody, Dukes here coming at you from the Venice Pier. We're about to share a special dual episode, a collaboration with Leah Jones in Finding Favorites about robot friends. We're going to get right into that directly, but after that, stay tuned. I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on the LA fires and some upcoming changes in the program schedule for Upper Middlebrow. But for now, enjoy Robot Friends with Finding Favorites.
Tell him about fun we do time he gone. Tell him about field trip zoo fun. Was he sad he missed it? No, he instead argue. He said field trip was mall, not zoo, but that trip last month. That's because Tebow was suspended the whole month he's been gone, Anna explains. So he thinks last month's trip was yesterday. I say that, says Jax, surprising her with his understanding. But he not believe. He argue until Marco and Lolly too tell him. Then he sad. Well, I'm sure there'll be other trips to the zoo. Not because missed zoo. Sad missed month.
Well, I will do a welcome, and then if anybody wants to do a contrary welcome, welcome to a combo episode of both Finding Favorites and Upper Middlebrow. We're joined by, as ever, Chris Bagg, and as also Leah Jones of Finding Favorites. And does anybody want to add?
By anyone else in a co-promotion of Finding Favorites? I mean, I guess we could be joined by other people.
Right.
Yes.
We could.
Well, because I do interviews. You technically could grab any of my guests and be like, it's a crossover episode.
Right. But we could be a guest on your show right now, or you could be a guest on our show right now.
Ooh, it's a Venn diagram show, but only 2 circles.
Yes. 2 circles, 3 people. Wait, no. Rewind.
I had a discussion earlier this week about the video that you just you mistakenly made an allusion to, and there was the same kind of like, wait, do we want to be talking about this kind of moment?
No, not in 2024. No. We don't.
No, it was a long time ago.
So we are going to talk, and this is something, Leah, I think the very first time we talked, which was over a year ago, we talked about having this discussion about robot friends, and to which I've added, and robot enemies. And which, and the movie that inspired that was Megan, or Threegan, as I still sometimes cheekily like to call it, which I would say is both a robot friend and a robot enemy movie.
Yes.
Again, sort of a diagram, 2 circles, one being. That accomplishes both things. One entity. Is it a person? I don't know.
2 circles, one. What is the shape that is formed by the intersection of 2 circles?
I don't know. A binoculoid.
It's sort of.
I know what you mean.
It's like a canal in the kitchen. Yeah. 2 circles, 1 canal. Is that what we call this episode?
A double. Right. Yeah, I know it. A squashed circle.
2 circles, 1 torpedo.
A squashed bicircle. It is the shape, that whenever you watch an old movie and someone's looking through the binoculars, you always get that filter that looks like 2 circles squashed together, which is not what binoculars look like when you're actually using them. When you're using binoculars, it's 1 circle. And yet...
it's like 1 circle or a headache.
Right. Both. Yeah. Both of those things.
I think we can dive in.
All right, well, I'm going to just put this question to all of you. We're going to talk about Megan, but then all of us are going to recommend at least one, and judging from the notes that I've seen here, maybe more than one, robot friend and or robot enemy story to each other. We'll roll for initiative, which is a thing we've done from time to time. But to start, I'm going to ask both of you, what do you think makes a good robot friend or robot enemy story?
I don't think I go out seeking robot friend or robot enemy movies in particular. I talk about it often on my podcast. I have a Regal Unlimited membership. Splurged for that last year. And that means the bar is on the floor for movies I will go see in the theater.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right? It was like $250 for the year. And that's all the movies I want to see in a recliner at the Regal on Webster, if you're in Chicago.
Yep.
How many movies have you seen this year?
I've seen like 40.
Wow.
Okay. It is paid for itself and then some.
Absolutely.
You've made like $550.
Yeah. So
Oh my God.
And sometimes I'll take friends who don't have Regal Unlimited and they're like, oh my God, a movie costs $21. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have amortized this membership. But what it means is like we prioritize movies that are going to be fun on a big screen, but also the bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
So we might skip something with more feeling to see something with bigger images, bigger sound, because you want the experience of being in the theater.
It's smart, and it makes me nostalgic for a time when I did most of my movie watching in the theater. Mm-hmm. It's just fun to watch certain movies, even if they're not what I would call good movies in a theater. That's just a fun experience sometimes.
Yeah, I miss the days of going to the Flick 1-2 in Westboro and paying, I think, $4.50 to see Terminator 2, which is a great movie theater movie and a terrible at-home movie.
It's also a great Robot Friend and Robot Enemy movie.
You're right.
Yeah.
And it actually is one that manages both. Well, so then
it's another two-circle Venn diagram.
Yes.
Although the Robot Friend in that one and the Robot Enemy, arguably the Robot Enemy is Skynet, and the Robot Friend, or Robert Patrick's, T-1000 Terminator, and the Robot Friend is Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator. I forget what that model is called. What's the original term? Is it just the T1 or something? I don't know.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not sure.
It's just the Terminator.
Yeah, it's just like maybe they didn't get that far in. I think the Terminator comes out in 84 or 85.
I think it's 84.
Yeah. Maybe they were just like, if you don't think you're going to make another one, why are you going to come up with a model number?
Right, and there was only one. Yeah, there was only one. But then, so the drill down, then, I'm going to rephrase my question to you, Leah, which then, in movies that you have seen, not choosing them because they are Robot Friend movies, but choosing them because you thought you would enjoy seeing them for no marginal cost. What then, based on the movies you've seen with Robot Friends and Enemies, which of the ones that you think are good, what makes them good?
I like when a robot friend is presented without an uncanny valley. So we're going to talk more about Megan. So I like robots that look like robots. Mm-hmm. Give me a C3 or droids. Give me a C3PO. Give me the other one, the little one, R2D2,
BB-8.
BB-8. So I am more comfortable with robots that look like machines.
Yeah.
Than robots that look humanoid. So I saw the Creator this year, where they're trying to get there's this weapon, and it is the worst. It is a weapon of mass destruction. It is the worst weapon in the world, and it's been created by aliens, and if they can capture the weapon, then they can beat the aliens. Mm-hmm. Well, the weapon is a robot child that is growing and learning. So you can't just destroy the weapon because it is a child.
Yep.
And how that messes with the mission.
Right. And did you enjoy that, or was that uncomfortably annoying to you? That because it's Uncanny Valley-ish? It
was there. I think I walked out having enjoyed it, the experience of the movie. There were some things about it that were really hard. The violence in it was very familiar, the violence in it was not big enough. It wasn't imaginary enough. It was a little too close to home. Mm-hmm. Even having robot children.
Too realistic to be fun, but not realistic enough to be a serious movie about violence.
Well, I saw it about a week after October 7th, and I'm Jewish, and had family of friends who were taken hostage. So there's a hostage situation that seeing a week or so after October 7th was too close to home.
Yeah.
and in that way, the violence felt very of today, and it was supposed to feel like 500 years in the future, and it didn't. So that was one that really comes to mind. But also, I would put forward, nobody agrees with me because this is not what the directors and writers said, but I think Poor Things is also an AI story. It's a Frankenstein story, but it is, I think she's also represents AI.
But I didn't see it, but I have a premise that Frankenstein is kind of like one of the original AI stories, or that it invents some of the tropes that we're still using today. I was thinking about the three robot friend tropes that I've seen a lot, or robot enemy, and they're all good. So one is machine goes crazy and tries to kill people, and that's like HAL 2001. That's Terminator. That's Terminator 2. A few others. Obviously Megan. There is, I think, Leave the World Behind has a moment like that. There is Machine Wants to Be More Human, and that is like Bicentennial Man. That is Lieutenant Data from the 90s Star Trek. That is, I would say, Short Circuit. Ex Machina has a little bit of that. And that can be done really well, too. And then there is just like the faithful robot companion, and that's R2-D2. And it's kind of the servant. It's like the Beowulf poet's servant. That's R2-D2. That's C-3PO. That's how Megan starts. And sometimes that robot has kind of like fun capabilities too. But Lost in Space, Will Robinson. Basically, like the robot's either like a servant or like a loyal dog,
Yeah, that was something I wrote down in my notes. Is the robot is peer, parent, or servant?
Yeah.
Often, yeah. And I think all of those tropes can be fun. Although what I think when I was thinking about what are the stories that I really, really like, I'm starting to feel like all of those tropes are feeling tired. So if I see a newer movie or read a new story, I want it to be a fresh take on those tropes. Or maybe a new trope, maybe a new thing that a robot can be, especially since I'm learning more and more about AI these days. And like all of those ideas about what AI is going to be to me seem the most likely is kind of like the faithful servant. But the killer machines to me is just sort of like a variation of demonic possession, or the Frankenstein story.
Well, it's also like, I think I've had a few minutes to think about this now because Leah very nicely went first. But like, the thing that stands behind the robot friend, robot enemy kind of framework is a like question of how much does it mirror us or not? And like, what is the intersection of an alien intelligence? Because like AI, even though it purports to look and talk like us, is not. And like, how much does that intersect with like a human intelligence? And so, it's kind of like the process of metaphor. And Jesse, you and I have talked about this before, that like the first thing your brain does when it encounters a metaphor, it says it rejects it. And it says like, no, the sky is not lead. And then your brain begins to try to imagine, okay, how could that be possible? What would make a sky lead?
Right.
And so I think that like the different areas of like the robot friend, robot enemy story are how much is this thing like us and how much do we expect it to be like us? And I think the interesting ones explore the ways that they are not like us. And I think like robot enemy too often becomes, it's just a mirror of our worst selves. Right. So like Megan hears like protect. Oh shoot, why can't I remember the kid's name? Katie. Yeah, of course it's Katie. Of course it's Katie. Why is it not Jenny or something? Katie, Jenny, who knows? Something very waspy with Y at the end. So Megan hears that and then takes it too far. And like, that's where we get a lot of like robot. It's funny, Short Circuit can go the same way though, right? It can go the other direction. It's the Amelia Bedelia effect. Like you said, dress the turkey.
That is exactly what I was thinking, is that there's a level at which Megan is Amelia Bedelia taken to the most violent end.
Well, and I think with the premise of Megan here, I've been reading a lot about AI for the work I'm doing lately. And so Ted Chiang, the sci-fi writer, says, I think he has a quote that's something like, our worries about artificial intelligence. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
This is what I brought.
Indeed. He says, our worries about AI are essentially worries about capitalism. And I think you see that in Megan, because the reason Megan goes haywire is her designers push basically to develop her too soon without the guardrails that she needs. They use a machine learning algorithm, and that machine learning algorithm pushes the logic of protecting Katie too deeply, to the point where she becomes murderous in protection of Katie. And first she kills the dog that bites Katie, and then she kills the lady. And then, and where I think the movie kind of goes off the rails is at a certain point she just snaps and becomes like pure evil, right? Because she kills the kid who bullies Katie, but then like that kid kind of bullied her and she kind of enjoys it. And I think that it loses the logic of the metaphor of the technology. It loses plausibility, it loses the metaphor, and it just becomes monster. She's become monster now, and now she's gonna like walk on all fours and like make the weird Kubrick face, where the head down and the eyes up, and look super creepy. And so to me, that story kind of loses it there. Whereas it starts at this really interesting premise of it's like the dwarves delved too deep in Moria, right? Like we unleash this technology out of greed. The greed is very, very specific in this. Even her mom, in the end, passes the test and proves to be a good parent, but certainly, her balance is off in terms of wanting to pursue her career as a roboticist and toy designer. And that's the origin of everything that goes wrong with Megan, too. So, and I think that's an interesting premise, but then I think it just gets a little bit too simple. One thing I will say about that movie, though, you said you don't like the Uncanny Valley. I think the Uncanny Valley is like the best thing about the movie. I think the animation of Megan through... I don't know if it's CGI or puppetry or I'm guessing it's some combination of CGI
it's a combination.
and puppetry.
They made a special mask for the actress for like some of the dance scenes and stuff. It was a person with a Megan mask on, like a very high end mask. I scrubbed through it today on Amazon, and anytime I hit pause, there was new trivia up. Yeah, like on the screen, which I didn't know was a thing.
You know that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pop quiz, right? That's what it's called. Amazon Prime. I love that feature. Yeah. No, I thought that was the best part. I think that, and even though Chris and I were texting, and my take on Megan is that it is RoboCop meets Child's Play with like a little bit of Mostly Martha thrown in, which is this movie that we mostly watched. Also about a kind of clueless mom whose sister dies and adopts the child. And although, with Martha's cluelessness has much lower stakes. Nobody is murdered in Mostly Martha, fortunately. She's just not a very good, fake mom. But I really liked that. To me, my favorite part was just like, wow, they did a really good job animating this character, because she is creepy and you graceful, monstrous at times. There are all these scenes of like early on when we're starting to get the sense that this machine is starting to go awry. There are all these body language hints at this. And I thought that part was really well done.
Yeah. I think that the puppetry feels like it was specifically alluding to Chucky, or Child's Play, it feels like some of the movements were very, I feel like they must have watched it a bunch of times and been like, okay, how can we get that particularly sort of jittery movement of Chucky into Megan? But yeah, other than that, it is, Jesse and I were texting about it's like the tropiest of tropey movies. You're like, let's get rid of those parents. We got to get rid of those parents,
It's funny. I another influence, I think, because when we get rid of the parents, they're driving somewhere that looks like the hotel in The Shining.
Yeah.
or the hotel. It looks like the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
It also looks like that. I was like, that is not in Oregon or Idaho where they say the accident happens.
It's definitely a movie made by filmmakers who grew up on TV.
Yep.
Like, this is a filmmaker who grew up, TBS was on 24 hours a day. Because it's real tropey. It's, you commented, like, got to get the parents out of the way. And I, as a single childless aunt, hate the like, hapless, childless aunt or uncle trope. Like, just because, and it just drives me bananas. And I can't think of any other movies that have it where, like, the aunt or uncle is also just fucking incompetent.
Right.
But her total incompetency when she first gets her, and her total disconnect from, like, a grieving child, or her, you know, that I found that really offensive, because that's not what it's like to be an aunt.
Yeah.
It was bad aunt and uncle representation.
I agree. As an uncle.
You wonder
As
if
a
Gemma
childless uncle.
was raised in a vacuum herself. Like she has the sort of all of the characters sort of seem to fill, like, what do we need in this slot? Okay, we need angry CEO, you know, and like you're right. I love that description. It's like a movie completely made by somebody who grew up on TV. Jesse and I were talking about TV plots the other day. The nature of them is that they're like Kleenex, and like TV plots and sets. And like Megan feels like a movie. It feels like none of the sets or the locations feel real. They all feel like sets.
Yes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't. The other one that just occurs to me, I actually think this is a clever use of a trope, because it reverses it, is at the very end when Katie sort of saves, is Jenna's the name of the aunt? Gemma. Yeah, so saves her when Megan goes crazy and is about to not kill her, but paralyze her with a pen.
I just learned about palliative care.
Super creepy moment. And then, so the way that... And then,
Misery.
You got Misery. You're right. Yep. You see that one. And then it is Sigourney Weaver putting on the loader, because the way she but this time it's the daughter saving the surrogate mother as opposed to the surrogate mother saving the daughter. But she takes control of Bruce, the big hefty robot.
Right.
Of course. When you all saw Bruce, weren't you guys all like, oh,
Bruce is coming back.
Bruce is making a re-entry. Chekhov's Bruce.
Chekhov's Bruce. Bruce is going to whoop some robot ass later in this movie.
Why is he so big?
Why is he so big?
She asks. Yeah.
The better for smashing Megan apart.
Why doesn't he have a face? Because we need something that is not, that we can't layer that we can't reflect our own humanity onto in order to save us from the human-looking robot at the end.
Right. No, the Bruce is the loyal robot, right? Who and it fit and passes Leah's test. Looks like a robot. God damn it.
Looks like a robot.
Can I play you all something on a screen share? I dug something up that was also I thought was inspired by this movie. Is that all right? Okay. I think if I do share screen, will it automatically share audio? I think so.
We'll find out.
Also share tab audio. Okay, so you remember that this movie starts with a fake commercial. To me, those were all heavily inspired by Paul Verhoeven and especially RoboCop. There's also a quote of RoboCop when Megan wakes up. Like, the first thing she sees is the researchers looking at her, which is exactly what happens when RoboCop wakes up. But I don't know how well you remember RoboCop or if you've seen it, but the fake commercials are amazing. So I just wanted to share one with you. So here we go.
God, the music is amazing.
He kind of looks like John Connor from Terminator 2.
He does, yeah. You got to get him that denim vest. That's your shorthand for bad guy. Seems a little excessive.
Magnavolt, the final word in auto security. No embarrassing alarm noise. No need to trouble the police.
Are you just going to get in the seat?
And it won't even run down your battery.
Magnavolt. Lethal.
Oh my gosh. That was wild.
There are like 5 like that in the movie. And, you know, when I saw RoboCop when I was probably like 11 or something, and those all flew over my head. And then I went back and watched it as an adult, and I was like, oh my God, this is high satire. And you know, the plot is also a greedy corporation invents a robotic cop in order to make money and then ignores all sorts of signs that the technology is flawed because it's making money too. And it's similar to Megan, you get this kind of critique of capitalism gone awry. But those commercials are amazing. You can find them all on YouTube if you have like 2 minutes sometimes. There's also one with like the future has no ozone layer. So there's one where a model advertises like SPF 200 sunscreen and it's completely opaque.
Isn't it great when you see like stuff like that where, you know, the filmmaker has included this like amazing moment of satire and then like, but then also purposefully chosen not to change things. So like the future has no ozone, but they still have parking garages. You know? Right. So it's like the identical parking garage. And it's just like, and it's great, right? Like that's a nice touch. That's what tethers it to our reality in order to make the satire work. And it's like one of those where you're like, yeah, that's a brilliant touch. It's like not a moment of discontinuity. It's actually like intentional and great.
Well, and RoboCop is supposed to be near future, but like many sci-fi things, it is commenting on the present. You know, it is commenting on sort of the corporate, public, private partnerships when it comes to policing and over-policing and all of those things. And that is a story of robot wanting to be human too. You know, that RoboCop's quest the entire time is to regain his humanity because he's actually a hybrid man and machine.
I guess Pinocchio is that's the other like original AI story that we haven't really talked about is like robot wants to be human.
Right. And Pinocchio is like the first Lieutenant Data.
Yeah. Velveteen Rabbit.
Velveteen Rabbit. Yep.
Yes.
Oh my God. Jeez. We gotta stop. I'm gonna start crying.
Right.
That's a sad one. Yeah.
Let's go to recommendations.
Yeah.
Let's keep moving. I think we touched on Megan enough to I mean, I don't know. Like, I think it's an interesting movie with some like real flaws. Like, what would you guys say as like your 1-sentence review of Megan?
Same. Interesting movie with some flaws, some nice moments. I give it a B.
It's like a good popcorn. It is tense. Like it's tropey, but it still has intensity and it still is stressful. And like I still had to watch parts of it through my fingers. Like I'm a wimpy movie goer, but I see a lot of action and horror, and so it was like everything it needed to be, even if it was predictable. That's fine.
Yeah,
and it was so campy. Like it was high camp. So I think it is like a fun watch, and it's a group. I'm glad I saw this one in the theater. Like it was a good, one to see with other people yelling at her.
That makes sense. Yeah. Stop! Don't go into that garage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, don't go into the weird, creepy, dark garage at night with the killer robot in it. Don't do it. And of course she does. Yeah, exactly. It had a lot of, I think it was fun like that too. It'll be interesting to see how it ages. I don't think it was a very clever treatment of the robot friend and enemy tropes. I felt like it recycled them without adding much. Apart from, I really am impressed by the puppetry and like the animation. I did think that was really cool and well done. Okay, so Leah, when we have done these recommendation shows in the past, because we're friends with tabletop role-playing game podcasts, we borrow a dynamic from them, which is to roll for initiative. So if you go onto the rundown I shared, there's a link to a website, Roll a Die, and if you click on that, you can roll a 20-sided die, and that is how we will determine initiative. I rolled a 9.
Do you know that you can also enter roll and then how many Ds and then what kind of dice right into your Google search bar, and it will roll. It will roll polyhedral dice for you. But
some startup made like $1 million in acquisition money on when Google purchased that capacity.
Yeah.
I got a 13.
7.
Oh.
So it goes Chris, Jesse, Leah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. So I brought Ted Chiang, and I have a reading. It's about 2 pages, which might take a few minutes. I hope that's okay. But this is from the short story called The Life Cycle of Software Objects. Are either of you guys familiar with this story? Just a little background, because there's some jargon in it. But the main character is a former zookeeper who has been working at a tech company and is on the precipice of being let go. And she gets headhunted from another company that has begun making intelligent virtual pet animals. And like they're called digients. And the animals can eventually talk, but they have to go through this period of learning and growing. And people purchase them to kind of raise them as children pets. But then the software cycle sort of moves on, and people begin abandoning their digients, and eventually people start suspending them, which means they basically never log in, and these artificial intelligences are sort of left to just kind of they're either kind of like boxed or fridged, and it's just called being suspended.
It's the digital Velveteen Rabbit.
And the reason I'm bringing it is because, of course, it's Ted Chiang, and Jesse, you already said, if we're going to do a robot friends, robot enemies, it has to be new. And every time Ted Chiang does something, he does a fresh take on it. And in this one, I think it's so amazing because it's not the robot friends or enemies that are the betrayers. It's us. We're the problem, and we're the monster. We're
always the monster.
Right. Yeah. It's Frankenstein, right? It's the doctor. It's not the monster is the problem. So the main character's name is Anna. Her digient is named Jax, Jax. And the company that is called Blue Gamma. And that should be enough context, I think. So, over the course of the following year, the forecast for Blue Gamma's future changes from sunny to decidedly cloudy. Sales to new customers have slowed down, but worse than that, the revenue generated by the food dispensing software has fallen. More and more of the existing customers are suspending their digients. The problem is that as the neuroblast digients leave infancy behind, they're growing too demanding. In breeding them, Blue Gamma aimed for a combination of smart and obedient, but with the unpredictability inherent in any genome, even a digital one, it turns out the developers missed their target. As in an overly difficult game, the balance of challenge and reward that the digients provide is tilting beyond what most people consider fun, and so they suspend them. But unlike dog owners who brought a breed they were unprepared for, Blue Gamma's customers can't be blamed for not having done their homework. The company itself didn't know that the digients would evolve in this way. Some volunteers have begun maintaining rescue shelters, accepting unwanted digients in the hopes of matching them with new owners. These volunteers practice a variety of strategies. Some keep the digients running without interruption, while others restore the digients from their last checkpoint every few days to keep them from developing abandonment issues that might make it harder for them to get adopted. Neither strategy is enormously successful at attracting prospective owners. There's occasionally a person who wants to try a digient without having to raise one from infancy, but these adoptions never last for long, and the shelters essentially become digient warehouses. Anna's not happy about the trend, but she's familiar with the realities of animal welfare. She knows you can't save them all. She'd prefer to shield Blue Gamma's mascots from what's happening, but the phenomenon is too widespread for that to be practical. Again and again, she has taken them to a playground, and one of the Digients realizes that a regular playmate is absent. Today's trip to a playground is different and brings a pleasant surprise. Even before all the mascots are through the portal, Jax and Marco notice another Digient wearing a robot avatar. They simultaneously exclaim, "Tebow!" and run over to him. Tebow is one of the oldest Digients, aside from the mascots, owned by a beta tester named Carlton. He suspended Tebow about a month ago, and Anna's glad to see that it's not permanent. As the Digients chatter, she walks her avatar over to Carlton's and talks with him. He explains that he just needed a break and is feeling ready to give Tebow the attention he's been demanding. Later on, after she's brought the mascots back from the playground to Blue Gamma's island, Jax tells her about his conversation with Tebow. "Tell him about fun we do time he gone. Tell him about field trip zoo fun. Was he sad he missed it? No, he instead argue. He said field trip was mall, not zoo, but that trip last month." That's because Tebow was suspended the whole month he's been gone, Anna explains. So he thinks last month's trip was yesterday. "I say that," says Jax, surprising her with his understanding. But he not believe. He argue until Marco and Lolly too tell him. Then he sad. "Well, I'm sure there'll be other trips to the zoo. Not because missed zoo. Sad missed month. I not want be suspended. Not want miss month." Anna does her best to sound reassuring. "You don't have to worry about that, Jax. You not suspend me, right?" "Right." I just think that is such a wild, flip-flop of the, it's not robot enemy or not robot friend. It's it's robot child. With all of the, all of the heartbreaking realities of, trying to be an effective parent.
I don't know. I think for me, I was like, oh, Ted has a parent with dementia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I could really see that.
Just of missing time, of losing time, but still being alive. And
yeah.
The image that flashed for me again, and this is, again, derivative of the Velveteen Rabbit, is Woody in Toy Story 3 after he gets torn and then spends a fair amount of time in the bin. I think before getting repaired, right? They do repair him and he gets back in the game again. But is that same energy of something is created to entertain somebody and then is no longer needed, and what happens to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds good.
For part of it for me, and I recognize this is the only book I ever recommend, but Jasper Fforde has a series of books, the Thursday Next series, and then so starts with the Air Affair, and in it, there's a book police and then go in and out of book world, and characters who have been written are only needed when their book is being read. And when their book is when their book is being read, they're out on the page. Characters are called from the library run by the Cheshire Cat. So characters, when their books are read less and less, spend more time in the library and eventually get recycled when their book has been read for the last time, and they're up for grabs to new authors.
God, it's
so it made me think of that world of of what happens when the toy is no longer loved, the digital animal we've created is no longer holding our attention. It's mobile games that fall out of use, right? It is all about it's everything that Meta and Facebook is trying, right? They're trying to make it sticky, so you keep coming back to the sites.
Yeah.
And but in a animal form, which is just brutal.
Yeah, it's the Island of Misfit Toys. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Oh, that sounds like I got to read those books. That sounds like
I
love that idea. The Cheshire Cat is the librarian.
The Cheshire Cat is the librarian.
That's amazing.
And when you say the characters are recycled if their books aren't read, does that mean by anybody or by do they have one? Is it like one physical book, or do they exist in all the copies of that book?
So the plot of the Eyre Affair is that the original manuscript of Jane Eyre is stolen. And changes made to the original manuscript change all copies of the book in existence.
Okay.
So the characters might be, like in a very popular book, they're just constantly doing their pages.
I see.
Right. So when they get recycled, they like become available. It was in a story from the 1700s, and it becomes available to a modern author.
So Christian Grey has a lot of fun.
Yes.
Oh, God. Jesse, we're over our 50 Shades of Grey allowed references for the year.
which is 2, right?
Yeah. The over-under is 1.5. You just crossed it.
Yeah.
I just was trying to think of a literary character who's being read a lot and who might enjoy living out the exploits. I don't know what that says, but about me. I mean, and Chris, it seems to me too that the pleasure of this, or that what you appreciate about it, really is. Am I right in thinking it really is figurative? It is sort of robot/AI as metaphor for some other aspect of human life, as opposed to there are stories that are interestingly speculative about how artificial intelligence will develop in the future. But it sounds like you're really vibing on the figurative nature of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what you go to Ted Chiang for, because like they're all speculative, and a lot of his stuff is very possible. Like you get the sense reading it, you're like, okay, yeah, I could see this. So it lives this double life of both speculative, but then also deeply figurative. And I think that's his particular, that's why he's so good, is that he manages to marry those two things. You know, it's like it's like a pitcher who's got like a 98 mile an hour fastball and an unhittable slider. And you're like, this isn't fair.
Well, I guess I'll go next. Well, I'm gonna give you a couple of honorable mentions, and then I'll give you my pick. So one honorable mention are the short stories of Isaac Asimov, and there was a particular collection that I got from my aunt, who was kind of my sci-fi aunt, in the 90s, called Robot Visions, which had stories going back to the early 1940s, and then it had a couple new ones written in the 90s, all by Asimov. And I don't know if you've read any of Isaac Asimov's robot stories. They're usually short stories, and they all have the same premise, which is that there are 3 laws of robotics. And one is basically robots can't harm humans. 2, robots have to obey humans unless that conflicts with the first law. And 3, robots have to protect their own existence unless that conflicts with the other 2. And all the stories have something to do with the interaction of those 3 laws. And I think in that collection of stories, you get Bicentennial Man, you get stories of robots gone haywire, you get stories of, you really get all 3 of the tropes that I mentioned. You get killer robots, you get the robots that want to be human, and you get the loyal servant robots. And there's also this character who appears in many of them named Dr. Susan Calvin, who is a robot psychologist, which is great. And so she's always being called by like the Robotics Corporation to figure out like what's wrong with this particular robot. They are great stories. I kind of feel like everything we've talked about and are going to talk about, you could find an Asimov prefiguring. Certainly the Terminator is prefigured. Certainly Megan is prefigured. Certainly any story about the robot trying to be human is prefigured. I mean, I think the modern examples sometimes take it into neat new places too. So that's an honorable mention. RoboCop is also an honorable mention. I just think it's a really good movie. But my actual recommendation is Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. It was a film. I don't even remember who the director was, to be honest. I'll look it up real quick. It came out probably like maybe 10 years ago. 2009. I can't believe it's that long ago. 15 years ago. To me, it feels like a relatively new movie. And it stars Sam Rockwell, and he also he is a clone, you learn about a third of the way through the movie. So it stars Sam Rockwell, and Sam Rockwell at various times as multiple characters. And then the voice of the robot friend, Gertie, is played by the actor formerly known as Kevin Spacey, who has, of course, now gone to movie jail because of his bad behavior. But he is a brilliant performance. And he basically plays... The basic premise, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Sam Rockwell plays Sam Bell. He is an astronaut on the moon. The moon is mining helium-3, which is a cheap supply of energy for Earth. And really, you just need one person to keep everything going. And the corporation signs him for a 3-year contract, but unbeknownst to the original Sam Bell, they basically have a series of clones who are designed to wear out after about 3 years. And so every time one Sam wears out, a new one is hatched, from the clone bank. And this robot caretaker, Gertie, who has a kind of like mobile CPU tied to the roof where it's got like a little screen, a camera, and then he also has a robot arm, but the robot arm is independent and they kind of move around and swivel around and stuff like that. Helps him and looks after him and talks to him, and the performance was modeled on HAL from 2001. So it sounds creepy, but what I really, really like, without going too deep into it, Gertie never goes haywire, but he also doesn't behave entirely the way his employers would expect him to. And I don't think it's because he's violating his programming. I think, like with the Asimov stories, he has 2 programming directives, and one is to support this moon mining mission, and the other is to take care of Sam. And those 2 things are sometimes in conflict. And so Gertie has to kind of figure out how he's going to navigate that conflict. And so when Sam is starting to figure out that maybe he's a clone and maybe there's something... Sam doesn't know he's a clone. None of the clones know that they're clones. They think they're the original Sam. And when he's starting to figure these things out, he'll ask Gertie questions, and Gertie will never lie to him, but will often try to divert him, which I think is really, really interesting. And then there's a moment, I'm going to try to do another screen share, where Sam has kind of figured out what's going on, and he asks Gertie to explain it. And let's see if the screen share works, because it's Amazon Prime. They might not play nicely, but I'm just going to try it. Yep. Okay, you should be seeing Sam Rockwell. Mm-hmm. There's 2 Sam Rockwell clones. One of them is 3 years old, and he is basically starting to fall apart and die, and that's the one you're going to see. And then there's another one. Let's see if you hear it.
Am I really a clone?
When you first arrived at Serang, there was a small crash. You woke up in the infirmary. You suffered minor brain damage and memory loss. I kept you under observation and ran some tests.
I remember that.
Sam, there was no crash. You were being awakened. It is standard procedure for all new clones to be given tests to establish mental stability and general physical health. Genetic abnormalities and minor duplication errors in the DNA can have considerable impact on...
What about Tess? What about Eve?
They are memory implants, Sam. Uploaded, edited memories of the original Sam Bell. I am very sorry. Sam, it's been several hours since your last meal. Can I prepare you something?
Usually Gertie's smiley it has a smiley face. You see he has a frowny face now.
Whew.
Yeah, man, it's heavy. And
Wow.
I think actually there is a figurative thing going on here. I mean, this is sort of a metaphor for capitalism. This poor miner is being completely exploited by the company that's benefiting. And because he's a clone, they can get away with it, probably because he has no rights and that kind of thing. But Gertie, the robot, I don't think we're within 10 or 20 years of this technology, but I could imagine maybe 50 or 100 years in the future having robots that could be programmed to be an assistant of an outpost miner or an astronaut who do have their programming encodes with them an urge, a capacity, a compulsion to look after this person. And the complexity might be manifest as something like an emotion, right? You know, that a neural network might, I don't know if it's possible, and that the mission of looking after the human might conflict with the mission that its corporate designers actually built it for. And I think that's a really, really interesting idea. And I also think there's probably human analogs to that idea too. You know, if you think about your insurance customer support person who you call on the phone when you're not getting the treatment you need paid for. And that person's trying to help you, but they also have been hired by the insurance company that doesn't want to pay you. I think the robot, and I think that's an increasingly common situation, and I think we're going to turn to robots in those situations. I bet even now, if you call your insurance company in certain situations, you might end up chatting with an AI-powered bot, at least at first, you know. I think we're going to see more and more of that. So I thought that was a really powerful moment. And I think what I really like about that film's depiction is Gertie doesn't snap. He doesn't go crazy and try to kill anybody. He doesn't completely betray his corporate overlords. He continues to operate, but like many humans, it's torn between two elements of its programmed values, and it tries to follow those values. And that is, to me, it's a really human experience, but then it's also profound to think that we could put artificial intelligence in that position, and maybe we will someday.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of these movies, like the AI thing is basically like, this is it's a safe place to set all of moral quandaries. You know, do you kill one person in order to save seven? It's the train problem, that sort of thing. I think the greatest droid that we've ever gotten to see in Star Wars is K2SO in Rogue One, which is, you know, the greatest Star Wars movie, because it's a total party kill, because they're freed from the fan service restrictions of keeping the story aloft. They're like, sweet, we can kill all these people. And K2SO comes to a very heroic and incredibly tragic end that is very sad. And like the droids in Star Wars are programmed to preserve themselves, but also their bigger directive is to protect the humans that are around them, which is that same, like, I think what you're getting at, Jesse, is what's interesting here is the moral conundrum that we can get when we take these robots and give them human moral quandaries.
I think it's very unlikely that we're going to get a super intelligent robot that decides to turn against us. I don't know that we'll even have robots with emotions, maybe one day. But what I think will happen is the robot's own directives, its programming will create conflicts for humans and for robots. And that is actually, to me, more interesting to think about than, oh, it turned into a demon like Megan, you know, or like Skynet, which again is just like this old idea of demonic possession and kind of mysticism, which is not to say that those stories can't be fun. I really do like Terminator and Terminator 2, but I'm also getting a little bit tired of them. By the way, Chris.
So something I realized is that I have been confusing Sam Rockwell and Sam Elliott
Yes, yes, I was too. I was like,
oh, this is not an old man who's a cowboy. Who is the Sam that plays cowboys?
You mean all this time I'm just a clone?
Leah, you and I were in the same boat.
Hell's going up here in this moon station.
I was imagining this like mustachioed, cowboy hatted dude, like kind of wandering around like the Sea of Tranquility.
I'll be danged if you don't look just like me.
Because doesn't Sam Rockwell sound like he should be Sam Elliott's brother-in-law at least?
You know, I would always confuse Sam Rockwell with Dean Stockwell, who is an actor from like the 70s and 80s with a similar name, who plays kind of similar characters too, but they're like a generation apart. Yeah, I don't know. I sort of figured out who Sam Rockwell was at some point. But I do remember he has one of those names that's eminently forgettable. And you're always like, Sam Rockburn? Dean Rockwellian? Dean Sam Rockstone? Stone?
I think what's happening is you're taking because this is what I do with it is I hear Rockwell and I think Norman Rockwell and I think that guy he must be a very old.
Sam Rockwell does sound like your grandfather's bridge partner, right?
So
like,
it's gotta be, you know, it's got to be the narrator from The Big Lebowski.
What are you doing this weekend, Grandpa? Oh, I'm just hanging out with my old buddies, Sam Rockwell, you know, Edgar Turpentine. It is an old-fashioned name. He's a great actor. You know, he was, let's see, he was George Bush in Vice. He's Zaphod Beeblebrox. Those are the movies that stand out to me with Sam Rockwell. He's Guy, the guy who thinks he's going to die in Galaxy Quest. You know, the red shirt, as it were, in Galaxy Quest.
He's the long-suffering sort of police chief in the Two Billboards movie with Two Billboards Outside of something, Nebraska.
He's not the chief. He's the kind of racist deputy.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Woody Harrelson is the chief.
Woody Harrelson's the chief, and Rockwell is the guy who beat up a black teenager, but kind of feels bad about it or something like that. Yeah, it's a weird sort of role. Is that Peter Boyle?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's a good movie.
No.
But I watched it on a plane, and I don't think any movie that you watch on a plane.
Isn't it the guy who made Slumdog Millionaire? Isn't it the same director? Is that Peter? Now I'm getting him confused with the guy who was the Young Frankenstein, the monster. That's Peter Boyle, the actor. You know, like
in Young Frankenstein?
Yeah. That guy. You know, have I summoned to you the do you actually now know who I'm talking about? That's Peter Boyle. Who directed Slumdog Millionaire?
Please hold.
Danny Boyle.
Yes.
Who did Train Spotting?
I believe Danny Boyle directed 3 billboards outside of Billings, Missouri.
It's like Ebbings, Nebraska. Yeah, that's right. Ebbing, Missouri. Okay, we got there.
Who's the director of that? 3 billboards. It's one of those movies.
I think that's why people started calling it 3 billboards.
Oh, it is 3 billboards. Okay, yes, yeah.
3 billboards. Martin McDonough.
That's right. Yeah, he wrote and directed it, and which I was super bummed about.
It feels like a Coen Brothers movie, but it's not a Coen Brothers movie. Well, Leah, do you have recommendations for us?
I have recommendations. I wrote down while you were explaining your Sam Rockwell Elliott movie, where you were explaining Moon. I realized how we went this whole time without talking about Doctor Who.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Doctor Who has robots.
Well, and the TARDIS itself is an intelligent thing.
Right. So you have the TARDIS, you have the Robomen?
The Cybermen.
Is that what they're called? Cybermen?
Yeah.
And the Exterminate.
Daleks. Oh yeah,
The
now
Daleks?
we're
Yeah.
now you're in my house now.
Who apparently look like my blender.
They look like your blender, but in the new version, they updated what's inside. The actual creature is inside the blender in the rebooted version, because somebody eventually pointed out, like, that's a very bad villain. You just go down the stairs. And the creators were like, oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What I think has been interesting, right? So what, are we on our 12th, 13th Doctor, right? It's been on the air for 50 years. But they have stuck to their original villains, but they have evolved them over the decades, right? So they're not trying to scare us with Daleks from the 60s. They have advanced their technology. Or the Cybermen, when I got to the episode where essentially they had like Bluetooth earpieces that they would put in people, and that was how they would like take over humans. And that's at a time when Bluetooth, everybody's trying to figure out like Bluetooth earpieces, and they looked so dumb.
Oh yeah. I remember that era where like the Bluetooth looked like a spaceship.
Yeah. But it is interesting that is a cornerstone of robot pop culture that has allowed, I think, for evolution, but keeps the same like archetypes across time.
Yeah. It's kind of amazing that they've been able to like keep it aloft for that long, and to keep it fresh and interesting and engaging. And I think you're right. Like it's funny, like the alien intelligences have kind of evolved the way that, we sort of think AIs might evolve. Of course, it's not. It's like, it's what, producers and directors and writers are doing. But they've had to, it's kind of an evolutionary process. That's a really interesting way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like that they've dealt with society and come up with ways to update the villains in ways that are interesting.
And that scare us today in new ways. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So that was something I wrote down during our conversation. And I don't have examples. But I have like a short list of things that I've seen in the last few years. Like I had classic robot, like fun movies. I had Short Circuit and Batteries Not Included, which were just kind of like they were very much robot wants to be human, is robot, like an alien, old people and robots.
Batteries Not Included it's weird though, because it's like the species it's like they're born as robots, and they're born as like little miniature spaceships. Is it
right?
It's funny. I was trying to remember that movie, and I had this memory of watching it, and I completely forgot about the robots. So at one point, I posted on the social media, "What's the movie where a bunch of like wacky people live in an apartment and the developer wants to knock it down?" And then somebody was like, "Is it Batteries Not Included?" And I was like, "Yes, but I don't remember the robots."
Robots, right?
Yeah, I just remembered the wacky neighbors for some reason. And I had it confused with The Dream Team, which was that movie where a bunch of mental patients escape and like go fishing and stuff.
Yeah. They're just Short Circuit and Batteries Not Included are overlapped in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they came out so close to each other, and like the effects are so similar, and they're also both kind of tearjerkers.
Yeah.
Doesn't Johnny Five, isn't the thing that makes he goes haywire, but it's a benevolent haywire, and he becomes robot that wants to be human. Isn't the thing that makes him go haywire a lightning strike? Isn't it like lightning hits the robot factory, and that's like it zaps him, and now he's alive, number 5 alive?
I think so. I'm getting like a sort of emotional sense memory of it, if not an actual memory of it. Yeah.
I mean,
but the other
right?
robots are
the power of life.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. It comes from lightning, and you're like, no, those are electrons. That's a lot of electrons. Yep. More electrons than you want at one particular.
Well,
moment.
and like RoboCop, they're built for violence. They're war robots. Yeah. But Johnny Five comes alive, and he doesn't want to be a war robot.
He wants to read. That's the image I most remember from Short Circuit is Johnny Five reading books in about 3 seconds, which is like fairly prescient, like the idea that like of course a computer is going to process text so much faster than we can.
They can do that. Yeah.
So you could probably still catch it in a movie theater recommendation, and then something I'm excited about. I saw Alien Romulus. I'm sure I've seen a couple other Alien movies. It is, again, it's like that was one we knew would be good on a big screen. Mm-hmm. And it is a story in the Alien universe. But in it, there is an AI support robot from an earlier movie that's brought back.
Right.
And I guess the actor has passed away and they got his estate to approve using, it's kind of the skeevy, like recreating a dead person's likeness in a new movie.
I know the actor you're talking, I can't remember his name, but I know the actor. And I once remember there was an audiobook on Audible of William Gibson's never used script for an Alien sequel, which that actor narrates, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Do they bring back Bishop? Is that the android they bring back?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. I've seen a few trailers for Alien Romulus, and I've been like, it's the only Alien installment that I have been tempted by in the last 10 or 15 years.
Bishop's in the second one, right? And he kind of betrays them. He's sort of a stooge for the corporation. Do I have that right? Aliens?
I thought Bishop was in the first one, and he's the android that goes crazy and pukes up a bunch of milk. Leah, am I getting this right? This is not, the Alien universe is not my world.
So it's not mine either. So Bishop is who you're thinking of, and they make him he is a type of android used across a bunch of different ships. So it's not necessarily the same one. It's that he is a type. Like WALL-E was a type of robot. I think I never saw WALL-E.
Yeah.
Right. So they bring, I have a real mixed bag. I've got 10 years where I didn't see movies, I guess. So, one, they're bringing back AI from another movie, but then there's also a companion AI where they are constantly kind of swapping out his USB. Sometimes he'll glitch and they've got to restart him, and they'll go to a panel behind his ear and pull out a USB, swap it. And that becomes that becomes important to the story. I won't say more because I do think it's apparently, if you remember things about other Alien movies, it has some fan service. I didn't catch any of it. It's young people trying to get out of a mining planet. They're being taken advantage of. Time is being added to their debt. It's very much company store mining situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so young people are we're going to get on a spaceship and go for a joyride. It's a teenager joyride.
That goes awry.
Goes awry movie.
With
and
xenomorphs.
It was, again, I did a lot of watching through my fingers, but it was very tense, but I thought, well done. I enjoyed it. So
okay.
And then I'm looking.
Have they made it? I saw Prometheus, which was the semi-recent, although that one's probably 10 years old now. And that I think of Romulus as being in that same generation where they kind of, the stories don't directly connect to the original Alien films, but they also sort of round out the universe a little bit and give you some backstory.
Yeah, there's kind of I don't know, there's two directions you go with sci-fi movies these days, especially if they have an IP that has been around for a bit, is you either go the Star Wars route and you just sort of pathetically rehash everything, or you go and you're able to take it in a new direction. And I think the Aliens franchise has sort of been it's been 50-50. You get one that you get one movie that's great, and then you get one where you're oh my God, I can just hear the cash register. That's the only reason this exists. But But I mean, one thing I do love about the Aliens universe is that it is this like sharecropping. It's like sharecropping in space. You know, like everybody is struggling. The Nostromo is just like wandering through. It's like way out in space and is like not. You know, they're not rich. It's not a space opera. It's Arthur Miller in space with aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like they're on a bulk cruiser somewhere, 10,000 miles. So I'm curious, Leah, do you like the movie because it's a good movie that happens to have robots, or do you think it's a good robot movie? And I guess what I mean by that is, are the way it sort of explores artificial intelligences and robots part of what make it interesting and fun?
Yes.
Okay. How so?
I want you to see the movie.
Okay.
I don't want to spoil it. It is in taking the USB in and out of the companion
That stuff.
robot.
The robot being sort of like a faulty computer that you have to reboot and fix up. And that kind of thing.
So the relationship is, it's her brother. She has been raised with this AI companion as her brother, and he's an old model, and so he's kind of developmentally disabled. That is his relationship to the other people, is that he is a developmentally disabled companion.
That's interesting.
Who she loves dearly, who cares about her. And they swap his hard drive for Bishop's to try and save the ship.
Oh, interesting. Oh, wow.
So...
All right. Well, that feels like enough of a non-spoiler. Like more, I can see why you wouldn't want to spoil it, but I feel like that's enough to get me intrigued. And
okay.
I actually feel more likely to watch it now.
Right.
I wasn't blown away by Prometheus, and then I think there was another one after that. And I was kind of like, you know what? I think I'm done with this property, but you may have hooked me back in. That actually sounds interesting.
Yeah, Jesse, let's schedule like a simul watch or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then one I'm looking forward to that's been coming up in previews is I had to Google it. The Wild Robot animated. Have you seen the previews for it?
No, but yes, I've heard the book read aloud to some kids, and it is a wonderful book, and I'm very excited to see the movie.
Yeah. So and Chris, fill in what I don't know, but it's like a war robot crash lands on a planet that's just animals and nature. And it wakes up and it's like a protector war robot. And so it's like, oh, I protect these little animals. And it becomes like this protector robot of a natural world with no humans and no other robots. And then they find out it's missing and they go looking for it. And it's like, no, I'm a wild robot. I'm staying. And then fights to stay with its animal friends. Is that it?
Oh yeah, totally. And like the corporation like refers that they like want to like take her back to the farm is like what it's called, and it's wonderful. It's really good. I can't remember if the robot is named Roz or one of its charges is named Roz, like R-O-Z, and it's really well written. It's a really wonderful book. I'm very excited to see it. So Leah, maybe we should have a simul watch of the Wild Robot.
So that is a robot movie I'm excited for. Like it's one of the kids movie previews that's come out that I'm like, oh no, that one I'm going to.
It looks so good. The animation looks amazing. It's really, I'm really looking forward to it.
In talking about that, you reminded me that there is also a robot sort of kids movie called Robot Dreams that I've heard is good too, but I haven't seen. Either of you know about this?
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, and there is also, I believe, another film that I thought this was, which is a series of anime shorts based on several sci-fi short stories, including one by John Scalzi, who I always enjoy. And I can't remember what that's called, but I've also heard that's good as well.
While I was trying to quickly look up which movie Bishop was from, so somebody has written a novel called Aliens Bishop. And I was sort of hoping Riverside had a way for me to drop an image into the chat, but I don't think it does. Or if it does, I'm not finding it. But I'm going to send it to both of you because it's the cover art is amazing.
Yeah, I think Bishop might have been in the first and second one. I don't, but
I think you're right.
Weird because like it's mostly an alien horror movie, and then there is this kind of like AI subplot with Bishop too, and he is. My recollection is that they are working for this corporation who doesn't particularly care about them and is endangering them, and Bishop has some connection to the corporate overlord, and I don't quite remember the details.
He's in both. He's in they're in both Alien and Aliens, and that sort of brings up another like trope of AI is that like if you sort of merge the AI and horror genres, like you always need expendable archetypes, and in a lot of horror movies, the AI or the robot is the person who is always going to get killed because they're a robot, and that's what happens to Bishop in both Alien and Aliens. And yeah, that sort of feels like a possible like rich vein to mine is like, well, like, are we going to treat these AI creatures as expendable anymore?
Yeah, or often things will happen too as plot devices where it's like the robot will save everybody by putting its arm in the door that's closing, and the arm will get crushed, but it doesn't feel any pain. And like that becomes sort of a superpower, but then it also becomes this like oddly sacrificial creature too. And like the end of Terminator 2, right? Like, Arnold is slowly sort of taken apart, by Robert Patrick's Terminator until the very end. He does make the sacrifice of dipping himself. Well, that's totally a spoiler.
On a 30-year-old movie, it's okay.
Yeah. I, as Chris knows, I can sometimes be hardcore about these things, but yeah. Well, are you all ready for some trivia? Would you like some? I have trivia for both of you if you want. If we could,
Ask away.
So, I will ask the question, and then when I say 1, 2, 3, go, you'll both hold up a piece of paper with your answer to the camera.
Oh, okay.
How about that? So you,
I need paper.
Secure a piece of paper. That way, your answers won't influence each other.
I'm ready.
You're very scientific. Chris is ready?
Ready.
Ready? Okay. So here's the question. Recently, robots at the Berkeley Auto Lab, which is a robotics, research laboratory, broke the robotic laundry folding speed record. And robotic laundry folding, in order to set the record, you have to fold a random assortment of clothing that has been sort of dumped on a surface unceremoniously. So different clothing, different sizes, in sort of chaos, in a heap. Sort of, I imagine they hire teenagers in order to achieve this effect. So recently, the robots at the Berkeley Auto Lab broke the robotic laundry folding speed record. How fast can the new robot, the fastest robot for folding randomly splayed clothing garments, fold clothing? A, 120. I'm going to give you, there's multiple choice. So is that clear, or do you want me to restate the question?
No, it's clear. I was going to ask about the unit of measurement, but you're giving us multiple choice. So
Lee and I were on the same page. I was like, we're not being given enough parameters to answer this question.
We have clarifying questions on your trivia.
Like what's the unit volume?
Right?
Yeah, the unit time
of measurement is folded garments per hour. So you could start thinking about, say, how fast you could fold, how many garments you could fold in an hour.
Shit, I mean, are we folding jeans or are we folding like fitted sheets? Like a fitted sheet takes a year to fold.
T-shirts, button-up shirts, jeans, garments.
Okay, yeah.
Clothing that a human being could wear.
Does it include matching socks or just folding?
Just folding. I don't think it has to match socks. I think it just has to fold. I'm not 100% sure, but I imagine we're mostly talking shirts, skirts, shorts, trousers,
This is
That's a good
100% like following the standard arc of upper middle brow trivia, which is the creator / asker has done like the bare minimum amount of research to generate the question, but like cannot field the wackadoodle questions that the other host inevitably comes up with.
I mean, I did read a whole article about it, but it doesn't necessarily go into detail about the garments that the robots are folding. But was the record-setting robot able to fold A, 120 to 140 garments an hour, B, 80 to 100 garments an hour, or C, 30 to 40 garments an hour?
I think I can fold 100 garments in an hour.
I hear writing.
Yep.
Let me know when you're ready.
Ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. We're going to go 3, 2, 1, go. And on go, you're going to hold it up. 3, 2, 1, go. Leah has chosen B. Bag has chosen A. The correct answer is C. 30 or 40 garments an hour. Robots, the best, most powerful, expensive, best robots that research can create, are really bad at folding laundry.
How much did these robots cost?
I mean,
That's my next question.
So much.
I don't
So much.
know. And it's also like hard to answer because the technology that powers it is probably based on, like automation robots that build cars and things like that. Like when I've seen the videos, they look like the kind of robots. So they're standing on the shoulders of other technologies. I imagine hundreds of thousands, if not,
But it's two
single-digit
arms
millions.
with like claws at the end.
Yeah, they've
right?
got 2 arms. If you want,
It's lobsters.
yeah.
They're lobsters.
They're like
Lobsters.
yeah, they're little 3. It's like 3 finger appendages.
Yeah.
I can post something. I can do a quick.
I really want to see the robots sort of like holding up garments sort of confusedly. Like, how does this work? Like, that's
Chris
what I
Bagg,
want.
If you have YouTube, you
I can go
see
watch
that.
this. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, do they look confused? I only want to watch it if the robots look confused.
I think that I don't know if they don't have faces. So do you see? This is what the robot laundry folding robot looks like. It doesn't have a face to express confusion, but you can certainly see them, sort of trying. Let's see if this is a video. Nope. You can certainly see them trying to fold the shirt and then kind of like not getting it right and then trying again and trying again. But, I think I find this fascinating, too, because I think right now we're in an age of AI enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us don't realize, how incompetent many robots are. Even though robots can assemble like a Ford vehicle, but basically that the parts they're using are the exact same dimensions every single time. And, laundry is chaotic.
It's different every time.
Mm-hmm.
Shirt has a different weight. It has a different texture. It has a different, friction.
Is this a
8 years ago, I was working on the launch of a robot called Temmie. And essentially it was like a Segway with an iPad and a tray. And it could follow your parents around the house, assuming the house had no stairs. So a Roomba,
okay.
like it's a Dalek. It could carry their tea for them. You could use the screen to make calls, but it would follow you and carry a few lightweight things.
Yeah.
So
And that's
cool.
it. Yeah. That's
yeah.
And I think that one of the things we're learning is that we humans have capacity to make sense out of chaos to a degree that we don't even know until we try to get a robot to do it, and the robot's like, this is really hard. Would you all like to watch 60 seconds of a robot trying to fold laundry? Would that be fun?
Yes, obviously.
All right. Here we go.
This makes me think that we've got another like Tolstoy illusion here. Like all happy laundry is the same. All unhappy laundry is unique in its own way.
It's
Cloth
true.
grasp point detection. Oh my God.
This is the lab. I don't.
This is begging for hilarious voiceover.
Right.
What is this? This.
You could just imagine the
this is
America's
our-
Funniest Home video guys doing the voice,
This is a cloth. Can you tear it? Is it a shirt? Okay.
wasn't it the Full House guys who also did the video
my God.
voiceover? Okay, good job.
It looks so proud of itself. Oh my God.
Like it smooths it out at the end.
So it's got a camera. It said point detection, right? So it's holding up this leopard print towel and it's turning it all around trying to find a corner.
Yeah, it's like trying to like recognize the shape of it, right? Like where is this in space?
And we'll note it's doing linens rather than garments, which I would imagine linens are easier than garments.
They're all rectangles.
They're all rectangles, yeah.
But also using the table to fold. Watch when it goes from the pile table to the folding table.
Yeah.
It's going to use the table to make the fold.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
See?
Okay. Is the Leah? Are the tables here?
I like how it lovingly smooths the
Yeah,
linen
I really
after.
do like that. I love how its arms sort of like come up after it's done, as if it's excited.
Right.
Leah, it sounds like you have some experience here. Are the tables green so that the eye cameras can like see contrast and actually like interact with the thing? Is it like a green screen?
I
but a green
imagine.
table? Okay. Wow, that was awesome.
The robots I worked with didn't have arms. It had a tray.
Let's see, this is the Tesla.
Tesla bot Optimus is
The
folding
Tesla
laundry.
is approaching uncanny valley here.
Yeah. Oh, it's so tender.
Yeah.
This one.
Let's see. It's definitely got
It
personality.
worked at Gap. That's a Gap
Yeah.
fold.
That's a gap fold. Look at it rotate its hips.
I know. The Tesla robot has style, but I think the other one did a better job with the folding.
I think so.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was a t-shirt, which we all agree is harder, right?
A t-shirt is more difficult than a towel, yes.
Let's see if we can get some more. This is folding clothes autonomously. A complete pipeline. Yeah.
Ooh,
this is more
this
like
looks
a Ford.
challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grasping
This-
garment
what-
from table.
What is this?
Oh, this is a t-shirt? Or like a dog outfit?
I tell you what's creepy is like when it wants to move fast, how fast it can move. You know, when it suddenly flips it out.
Well, that's sort of what goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is that we want these AIs and we want these characters to resemble humans. But then the real moments of drama are when they don't resemble humans, and it becomes this sense of like, oh, we're playing with fire.
Did you see that? It's doing grasp point detection, right? It's figuring out where it's going to grab.
Where do
Where
I
to
hold
hold
this
it.
thing?
And then once it does that, checking grasp direction so it doesn't rip the shirt in half.
I want to see some of the blooper videos.
It really should spread it out. I love that the body language right now is like, that doesn't look great.
Yeah, I didn't get that quite right. Oh, no.
So when you were the other robots that were cleaning, I felt like were one robot, two appendages.
Yeah.
This one I feel like is two. It's like a three-legged race. It's like two robots trying to work together to fold.
Yeah.
Versus like one robot. I don't know why. Why did my brain assign this to being
sure it's
two individual
Two
robots?
things.
But
Yeah.
I'm sure it's controlled by the same computer, but it's like each arm has its own housing. They're also
Yeah.
like, I will say, like, when it comes to folding laundry, my sense of this robot is heavily overbuilt for does it really? I mean, it's just like as big as a I don't know, like a gorilla, you know? I mean, that's a lot of infrastructure. I think we're on about minute 2 of this robot folding one shirt. There we go. Hey, is it going to smooth it out? Well,
Do you have another trivia question for us to destroy, or
No, I just had the one.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
was a good
because
one.
That was a good one, and we got what we usually want out of trivia questions, which is like
The opportunity to
wild
watch robot.
spirals into
Wow.
Yeah.
into other information.
I will say there are times on Upper Middle Brow when you guys are doing trivia with each other, and I am just absolutely screaming at my phone.
Because you know the answer and you can't
Because I know the answer. And I wish I could remember the one that really, like, sent me off. Like, I like, lost it.
That's great.
I don't remember what it was about.
You're like, Chris, stop overthinking it.
The number of times that Chris will ponder the correct answer and then say, "Oh, but it can't be that. That would be too simple."
Right.
And then choose
I
the wrong
reason
answer.
myself out of it like 8 times out of 10.
It's quite often. Well, shall we read some credits?
Sure. You can find Finding Favorites wherever you get podcasts, and on Instagram, Finding Faves Pod, or not on Twitter anymore. So really just on Instagram. Please rate and review 5 stars, because if that is important for the big podcast, it's important for us. I'm Leah Jones. You can find me on Instagram at ChiLeah, ChiLeah. And wear your mask, wash your hands, and keep enjoying your favorite things.
Get your flu shot. There's new flu shots.
Get your flu shot, yeah.
And there's new
Get your
COVID shots,
RSV
too.
vaccine if you're over 60.
And I wish I'd gotten my COVID shot 2 weeks ago, but no, it's too late, unfortunately.
Well, now you've got, you sort of, you got it the hard way.
That's right. Definitely.
Upper Middle Brow is a Small Point production. Chris Bagg and Jesse Dukes are your faithful robotic companions. Music by Ben Pachak and Jesse Dukes. Design and website by me, Chris Bagg. You can learn more about us and find our listener survey. Please take our listener survey. I think we need like 3 more people to get to 10. And then, just as Leah said, please review us in your podcast app. It helps other people find the show, and we would really appreciate it.
And as a reminder, Chris and I are both writers and editors and can help you with your writing or editing project. I can help you produce your podcast or radio show. Chris can help you be a better athlete in addition to the editing and writing. You can see some of our portfolios and learn more at our respective websites, Chris Bagg with 2 G's and no R.com and JesseDukes.com. And Leah Jones, thank you so much for doing this with us.
This was great. Thanks, Leah.
This was really fun.
So fun.
Yeah, always fun.
Hello, Upper Middle Browsers. Dukes here. I'm coming at you from a place I've come at you before, which is the Venice Beach Municipal Pier, one of my favorite places in Los Angeles. It is January 13th, the day that we're actually releasing the episode, or maybe one day before. And I told you I'd have a few updates at the beginning of the show, so first of all, I'm back in California after being on the East Coast for 2 weeks. I'm looking north at the Pacific Palisades, and you would never know there was a fire there from here. I'm about 8 or 9 miles south of the neighborhood. I think the sort of plateau area that burned the worst, you can't really see very well, but I can see the Getty Villa, I can see Palisades Drive, the neighborhood that goes almost all the way up to the top there. It actually makes me hopeful that things aren't quite as bad as I feared, even though I know that one of my favorite places, the Malibu Real Inn, was destroyed. Also, the beautiful historic homes at Will Rogers Historic Park were destroyed. And obviously, some people died. Firefighters were injured, which just makes it purely tragic. But you would not know. It is sunny, it is beautiful, the air is clear and clean. My understanding is that the fire continues on the other side of the Santa Monica Mountains, over by Calabasas. I cannot see any evidence of that. I don't see any plume. It's not even particularly smoky or foggy today. I think if the wind was coming out of the north, it might be worse. But it's coming offshore, which usually I find that annoying, but this is a good day for an offshore breeze because it keeps the air clean. So that's just an update from Los Angeles. I'm perfectly okay. I do want to take a moment and say, for anybody who's been displaced by any of these fires, our heart goes out to you. I have a number of friends who had to evacuate, at least one friend or two whose house is burned. I don't know if they're going to be recoverable. And I have heard that some of my friends are returning to the east side, friends in Eagle Rock, Altadena. I don't know how they're going to be. that fire appears to be out, or at least down to just some smoldering, so hopefully the worst is over and we'll get some rain soon. Wet the mountains down. Make everything green again. But life goes on. People are doing LA things. Played Ultimate Frisbee this morning. People are out jogging, enjoying the beach, fishing. And then the other thing I want to tell you is that we were inspired by this episode, and particularly Chris Bagg's bringing up of Ted Chiang's story, The Life Cycle of Software Objects, to do a follow-up episode in which we invited our friend Justin Reich, friend of the show Justin, to have another conversation about robot friends, focusing specifically on that book. As you know, Justin has paid a lot of attention to artificial intelligence over the last few years. We talked with him about the Diamond Age, and there are some really interesting education and AI training issues that are raised by Ted Chiang's book, Exhalation. So that'll be coming out probably in a couple weeks. We also have the second half of The City in the City that's coming out really soon. So a couple things to look forward to. That's all I got for you for now. If you're in LA, I hope you're safe. If you are elsewhere, know that most people in LA are safe. And I shared some things on my social media for people who are interested in helping people who've been displaced or need other kinds of help. There's a spreadsheet right now with a whole list of GoFundMes, particularly focusing on the needs of people of color who often don't have the same support in crises and emergencies like that. Of course, there are also lots of white people who need help too, but hopefully you can dig deep and help some people in this moment recover. And Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time. I'll leave you with some sounds from Venice Beach. It's really low tide. You can see there's like 3 or 4 feet of the pylons exposed, and you can see the mussels that grow there. Good job, guys. You're filtering out the water for us.